Robert Francis Prevost, born on September 14, 1955, in Chicago, Illinois, rose from a working-class Catholic upbringing to become Pope Leo XIV, the first American pontiff, elected on May 8, 2025. His life, spanning 7 decades, unfolded across the United States, Peru, and the Vatican, marked by his Augustinian vocation, missionary work, and leadership in the global Catholic Church. This narrative, grounded in documented events, traces his journey from Chicago's urban parishes to the papacy, detailing his education, ministry, and the historic conclave that elevated him to the chair of St. Peter. Prevost's childhood in Chicago was rooted in the 1950s, a period of economic growth and cultural vibrancy in the United States. Chicago, with its sprawling neighborhoods and industrial pulse, was home to a robust Catholic community under the Archdiocese of Chicago, one of the largest in the nation. Prevost's parents, devout Catholics of modest means, raised him in a household where faith shaped daily life. He attended local Catholic schools, where nuns taught catechism, and participated in parish activities, attending Mass in churches adorned with stained-glass depictions of saints. The city's diversity, Polish, Irish, and Italian enclaves, exposed him to varied expressions of Catholicism, fostering an early appreciation for cultural differences. As a teenager in the 1960s, Prevost witnessed a nation in flux. The Civil Rights Movement, anti-Vietnam War protests, and the Second Vatican Council, 1962–1965, which modernized church practices, influenced his worldview. Chicago was a hub of activism, with marches and debates echoing through its streets. In this environment, Prevost discerned a call to the priesthood, drawn to a life of service. In 1973, at age 18, he entered the Order of St. Augustine, a religious community founded in the 13th century, known for its commitment to communal living and theological study. He began his formation at Villanova University in Chicago, studying philosophy and theology while living in an Augustinian community. Prevost's seminary years were rigorous, combining academic coursework with spiritual discipline. He learned Latin for liturgical purposes, studied Augustine's writings, and engaged in pastoral training in Chicago's parishes. Ordained a priest in 1980, he served briefly in local ministries, preaching and counseling in neighborhoods marked by economic hardship. His early priesthood coincided with a period of social change, as the Church grappled with its role in a modernizing world. Prevost's ability to connect with diverse congregations, honed in Chicago's melting pot, distinguished him among his peers. The Augustinians assigned Prevost to Peru as a missionary, a pivotal chapter in his life. He was sent to Chiclayo, a coastal city in northern Peru, during a turbulent decade. Peru faced economic crises and the violent insurgency of the Shining Path, a Maoist guerrilla group that destabilized the country. Chiclayo, with its mix of urban markets and rural villages, was a challenging mission field. Prevost served in impoverished parishes, celebrating Mass in simple churches and ministering to farmers, fishermen, and urban poor. His duties included distributing aid, teaching catechism, and organizing community projects, such as wells and schools. Prevost adapted to Peruvian culture, learning Spanish fluently and embracing local traditions, from Andean music to coastal festivals. The 1980s saw the rise of liberation theology in Latin America, a movement advocating for the Church to prioritize the poor. While Prevost did not fully align with its political dimensions, his ministry reflected its emphasis on social justice. He lived frugally, often traveling by bus to remote villages, and earned the affection of parishioners, who called him Padre Roberto. The dangers of the Shining Path, including bombings and curfews, tested his resolve, but he remained committed to his flock. In 2015, Peru granted him citizenship, recognizing his contributions to Chiclayo's communities. By the late 1980s, Prevost returned to the United States, taking on leadership roles within the Augustinian order. He served as a formation director in Chicago, mentoring seminarians and drawing on his Peruvian experiences to teach pastoral care. He maintained ties with Peru, returning periodically to support its parishes. In 1999, he was appointed provincial superior of the Augustinian Midwest Province, overseeing communities in the United States. His administrative skills, combining empathy with pragmatism, caught the attention of his superiors. In 2001, Prevost was elected Prior General of the Augustinian Order, a position he held for 2 six-year terms until 2013. Based in Rome, he led a global network of over 2,000 Augustinians across 50 countries, managing missions, schools, and monasteries. His role involved extensive travel, visiting communities in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. He addressed challenges such as declining vocations in Europe and financial constraints, while promoting education and missionary work. Prevost strengthened Augustinian schools in developing nations and fostered interfaith dialogue in regions with diverse religious landscapes. His leadership was collaborative, though some later criticized his oversight of abuse allegations within the order, citing instances where investigations may have been delayed. Prior General brought him into contact with the Vatican's highest echelons. He worked with Pope John Paul II on mission initiatives and collaborated with Pope Benedict XVI on theological projects. His global perspective and administrative acumen made him a respected figure in Rome. By 2013, when he stepped down, Prevost had left a legacy of growth within the Augustinian order, positioning it to navigate a rapidly changing world. In 2014, Pope Francis appointed Prevost as Bishop of Chiclayo, returning him to the city where he had served as a missionary. As bishop, he oversaw the Diocese of Chiclayo, managing 50 parishes and addressing regional issues, including poverty and environmental degradation. He launched programs to support farmers, advocated for clean water access, and strengthened catechetical training for youth. His fluency in Spanish and familiarity with Peruvian culture enabled him to connect deeply with his diocese. He also tackled corruption, urging local leaders to prioritize the common good, a stance that resonated with Pope Francis's emphasis on social justice. Prevost's episcopal ministry was marked by pastoral zeal. He visited remote parishes, often traveling hours by jeep, and celebrated outdoor masses that drew thousands. His sermons, blending biblical exegesis with practical advice, reflected his Augustinian roots. In 2015, his Peruvian citizenship was formalized, a symbolic affirmation of his dual identity. He remained in Chiclayo until 2021, when Pope Francis called him to Rome, appointing him to the Congregation for Bishops, a Vatican department responsible for selecting bishops worldwide. In January 2023, Prevost was named prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops, a role that placed him at the heart of Vatican decision-making. He oversaw the nomination of bishops, shaping the Church's leadership in over 3,000 dioceses. His tenure was notable for its inclusivity. He appointed bishops from underrepresented regions, such as Africa and Asia, and prioritized candidates with pastoral experience. In a historic move, he included 3 women in the Dicastery's advisory panel, granting them voting rights on bishop nominations, a decision that drew praise from progressives and criticism from elevated Prevost to the rank of cardinal in September 2023, creating him cardinal priest of Santa Monica. As a cardinal, Prevost participated in Vatican synods, advocating for environmental stewardship and interfaith dialogue. He supported Francis's reforms, including efforts to decentralize church governance, while maintaining conservative positions on doctrinal issues, such as opposing women's ordination as priests. His handling of abuse cases, both in Chicago and Peru, faced scrutiny, with reports suggesting he had not always acted swiftly to address allegations. Nevertheless, his global experience and pastoral credibility positioned him as a leading figure in the College of Cardinals. In March 2025, Prevost led a public rosary in St. Peter's Square for Pope Francis's health, a gesture of devotion as the pontiff's condition deteriorated. Francis's death on April 21, 2025, triggered a conclave to elect his successor. The 2025 conclave, held in the Sistine Chapel, was unprecedented in its diversity, with 133 cardinal electors from 70 countries, a result of Francis's global appointments. The electors faced linguistic challenges and ideological divisions, with progressives seeking to continue Francis's reforms and conservatives advocating for doctrinal clarity. Prevost entered the conclave as a prominent candidate, known for his centrist views and pastoral record. His American citizenship raised concerns among some electors, given the United States' geopolitical influence, but his Peruvian citizenship and Latin American experience mitigated these reservations. The conclave, beginning on May 3, 2025, involved multiple ballots over several days. Prevost's rivals included Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Italy, a progressive, and Cardinal Peter Erdo of Hungary, a conservative. Debate centered on issues such as clergy abuse, women's roles, and the Church's stance on modernity. Prevost emerged as a compromise candidate, appealing to both reformists and traditionalists. His support for social justice, poverty alleviation, environmental care, aligned with Francis's legacy, while his adherence to traditional doctrine reassured conservatives. On May 8, 2025, after the ninth ballot, he secured the required two-thirds majority. White smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel at 11:47 a.m., signaling the election of a new pope. At 6:32 p.m., Prevost appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, greeted by a cheering crowd of 100,000. He announced his papal name, Leo XIV, honoring Pope Leo XIII, whose 1891 encyclical Rerum Novarum addressed social inequalities. Prevost became the 267th pope at age 69, bringing a unique perspective to the papacy. His first words, delivered in Italian and Spanish, called for a church of mercy and encounter. He wore a simple white cassock, foregoing ornate vestments, and chose to reside in the Vatican's Casa Santa Marta, a modest guesthouse, echoing Francis's humility. His election marked a historic milestone, as the first American pope and the first with dual citizenship, reflecting the Church's globalized identity. In his initial days, Leo XIV outlined priorities rooted in his lifelong ministry. His first homily, on May 9, 2025, emphasized care for the poor, interfaith dialogue, and ecological responsibility. He pledged to address the clergy abuse crisis, announcing a review of Vatican protocols. His choice of Leo XIV signaled an intent to engage with social issues, drawing on Leo XIII's legacy of advocating for workers' rights. He retained his Augustinian spirituality, beginning each day with communal prayer, a practice from his seminary years. Leo XIV's papacy faces significant challenges. The Church navigates a polarized world, with declining membership in Europe, growth in Africa and Asia, and debates over doctrine. His American background invites scrutiny, as global Catholics weigh the implications of a superpower's influence. His past handling of abuse cases remains a point of contention, with advocates calling for transparency. Yet, his experience, Chicago's parishes, Peru's missions, Rome's dicasteries, equips him to lead with resilience. Prevost's journey to the papacy began in a Chicago parish, where a boy knelt before an altar, and culminated in a Roman basilica, where a pope blessed a global flock. His life, bridging continents and cultures, embodies the Church's universal mission. From missionary trails to Vatican halls, Robert Francis Prevost, now Leo XIV, carries the weight of history, his Chicago roots and Peruvian heart guiding a faith that seeks to heal a fractured world.